about what we wanted to be as adults. And sometimes as adults, we forget about those fantasies, but I remember fantasizing about being a football player, being a boxer. I was so competitive that I would fantasize about doing the things that my older brother would do and fantasize about boxing and fighting. And I remember playing outside with my brother and his friends, and I wanted to run as fast as them and jump as high. And I wanted him to teach me all the things that he did. And my biggest fantasy was fighting. And to the point where I thought I'd had to fight for everybody around me. If I saw someone being bullied, I wanted to go save the day. I wanted to fight their battle. And I remember one day I was outside over at my grandmother's house playing with my older cousin and my brother. And there was a girl up the street from my grandmother. Her name was Trina. And Trina was way bigger than we were. And everybody in the neighborhood was scared of Trina. And I remember that one particular day, Trina decided to pick on my cousin. You see, my cousin, she was physically stronger than me. And when Trina started to pick on her, and I saw that my cousin wasn't sticking up for herself, I said, Trina, leave her alone. Leave my cousin alone. And Trina looked at me, and for a second I got scared because she had this look in her eye, and she was playing with one of those toy guitars. We used to have these toy guitars when we were younger. But she picked that toy guitar up and she swung that guitar and hit me over my back. I was about to cry, and I looked over at my brother, and he said, get her. And I just started swinging. I started fighting Trina. Trina didn't know what hit her. And Trina, I won. I think I won the fight. But just as I was finishing up on Trina, I heard a voice say, Sheila! And I looked up, and it was my grandmother looking out the front window. She said, what are you doing out there? And I said, nothing, Grandma. See, I used to call my grandmother Grandma. And I said, nothing, Grandma, just playing with my friend. And I looked over at Trina and I said, you want to be my friend? And she said, yes. And if I had to describe myself, I'd say I've always been a fighter. I've had to fight for attention, fight for my place in life, fight to be noticed, fight to be loved. Hell, sometimes we have no choice but to fight. The only question is, do you want to be my friend? 2015, worst year of my life. I remember it like it was yesterday. See, I was married for 20 years. I married my best friend, my confidant. I married my king. He was my why, the father of my children. Man, I shared everything with. The man I walked down the aisle for. I walked down the aisle, and I remember that day walking down the aisle and looking up. And my father had me by the arm, and he made me feel secure, but I felt even more secure when I looked up and I saw my husband, and he had tears in his eyes. It was the ultimate expression of love. He looked at me like I was his everything. He was fighting back the tears, but I saw it. I saw those tears in his eyes, and I knew that he was my happily ever after. We would be together forever. He had those same tears in his eyes in 2015. When he came in the room, and I was sitting there, and I looked up and I smiled at him, and I saw the tears, and he said, I need to talk to you. I have something to tell you. I knew something was wrong, but I wasn't prepared for it because, sometimes things happen to us that we're not prepared for. Our heart's not prepared, and our soul's not prepared, our mind's not prepared, and when we hear it, we don't know how we'll ever recover from it. But those tears in his eyes told me that there was something he needed to share with me. Those same tears I saw when I walked down the aisle and I saw my husband standing at the end, waiting for me to reach him, waiting to share life together. You see, sometimes the people we love the most hurt us the most. But in this situation, this was the person that I was to share and spend the rest of my life with. He told me that day, with tears in his eyes, that he had a 2-year-old son by someone else. "20 years of marriage. 20 years, and he broke my heart." We had 3 children together. We have 3 beautiful children together. Youngest at the time was just about to turn 15, and I was counting down the time when we could get the last one out the house and start traveling together, and we were almost there. But just as we were reaching the finish line, I was reaching the end of the aisle, he was starting over with someone else. It broke my heart. This was 2015, my worst year. I didn't think I'd ever recover from it. Because my king, my why, my everything was now to share something that we shared for so many years together. He was about to share it with someone else. But you know, like I said, sometimes the ones we love the most hurt us the most. When it rains, it damn sure pours. Less than a month after finding out my husband of 20 years had fathered a child outside of our marriage, I found out some devastating medical news, or a diagnosis. I was supposed to go in for a routine procedure that wouldn't have taken me but a few days to recover. Nothing went as planned. I wasn't ready for it mentally. My body wasn't ready. My body wasn't ready to heal. I was supposed to have some tissue removed from my breast. And just a week after the surgery and after the procedure, I went back in for an appointment, and the doctor said, "You're not healing the way you're supposed to. Your body's not recovering, and we're going to have to take you back in." See, blood was building up where it wasn't supposed to, and parts of my body that was supposed to get oxygen wasn't getting oxygen, and I almost felt like I couldn't breathe. I was still healing from the other devastating news, and when the doctor said, we'll take you back in and you'll be okay, I believed her. So I went in for my second surgery. And although it was painful, I was looking forward to being whole again, to feeling good again. When I got home from the surgery, I found myself in a weakened state. And just days after being home, although I would have preferred not to have had to go to my ex-husband or to my husband at the time, I went to him and I said, I need you to fix me something to eat. I need your help. I was so weak I couldn't do it myself. And the doctor told me don't lift anything, but I needed his help. He looked at me and he said no. For the first time in 20 years, I felt alone. The man that I loved, that had always been there for me, couldn't be there for me when I needed him the most, or I thought I needed him the most. So I mustered up enough strength to do it on my own, because I knew at that point that I needed to eat. So I mustered up enough strength to feed myself, to fix myself something to eat. Then I went and laid down, got some rest, but when I woke up, I was in excruciating pain. Like something was cutting right through my breast, and I felt like something had hit me in my chest. I was in so much pain, but when I looked down, I saw the front of my shirt was covered in blood. I wanted to call out to him to come help me or to come take a look, but instead I just picked up the phone and called the doctor. And I remember calling the doctor and I said, something's not right. And I sent her a picture so she could see what was going on. And she said, I'm scheduling you first thing in the morning. We got to bring you back in. You see, what I was experiencing was something that I had never experienced, but my body was deteriorating. The area around my breast was deteriorating and was dying. There were things in my life that were deteriorating and that were dying, and I couldn't explain it. I didn't know what I was going through, but I knew that I had to get back to the doctor, and I went back the next day and went through the surgery, and I made it out alive. I was still breathing. They told me to come back for a post-op appointment so that they could talk to me, and I thought it was a routine appointment. I thought it was another checkup. But when I got back to my appointment, just days later, the doctor looked at me with tears in her eyes. She looked at me with a lot of concern in her eyes, and she said, the surgery didn't go as planned. She said it didn't go as planned, and at that moment, I wasn't quite scared. I didn't quite understand, but she looked at me and said, we had to remove your left breast. As a woman, there's something about our breast that makes us feel like a woman, that it makes us feel sexy. It sets us apart from the male counterparts. This is less than a month after finding out that I'm losing my husband, and now I've lost my depressed. You know, sometimes life just ain't fair. Reconstructive breast surgery. Reconstructive breast surgery. 3 words I thought I'd never hear. 3 words no woman wants to hear. But at that moment, I made a decision to rebuild my mind, rebuild my spirit, rebuild my life. I was committed to the rebuild. You see, life threw me a punch. I'm gonna tell you something. I threw one back because I'm a fighter. In 2015, the worst year of my life and the best year of my life. I got rid of the things that I no longer needed in my life. I got rid of the man. I got rid of the house. I got rid of the furniture. Mama got a brand new bag. I learned to get rid of the old to make room for the new. My girlfriend asked me, she said, Sheila, how'd you do it? I learned to let go of yesterday. I learned to take control of my life. You see, if you want peace, you gotta fight for it. If you want happiness, you gotta fight for it. If you love your life, you gotta fight for it. See, I'm a fighter. How about you? We all face moments in our life where we want to give up. But the key to having your best year ever is you have to fight for your dreams like your life depends on it. The primary reason we wrote the book is so that you could own your destiny, own your future, own your legacy. The 3 things we must remember to be successful is we must overcome obstacles, never give up, in order to have your best year ever. The book is the ultimate blueprint for success. Do you want to be successful? Get the book. Do you want to win? Read the book. Do you want to achieve? Live the book. I challenge you to be one. One with your dreams, one with your ambitions, one with your destiny.
Sometimes I feel like I've been fighting all my life. One of the things I know for sure in life is that you will face obstacles. And that's just the reality of it. Growing up in the Silicon Valley, I'm from San Jose, California, and growing up in the Silicon Valley for some people is a dream, but for me it was a nightmare. See, my mom, she was 16 when they had my brother, and she was 19 when they had my sister. So by the time they had me, at 24, it was like her youth was stolen. It was like she was trying to get back the time that she had lost being a wife, being a mother. And so she abandoned me. She abandoned my brother and my sister. And so you have this dichotomy of this woman wanting to be a child or wanting to relive her youth, and then you have this child who just wants her mom. Sometimes abandonment is the obstacle that you have to face. Sometimes you might not have that person fighting in the corner. You may not have that person sitting on the front row cheering you on. You may not have that person saying, hey, I'm here to fight the good fight with you and for you. Sometimes you might just have yourself. You may just have you. Growing up in my house, it was every man for himself. Right now, I know it was bad, but at the time, I didn't know. Because some of my best memories were the toughest times. I remember eating syrup sandwiches and mustard sandwiches, and I could even recall a time when my mom would disappear for days on end. And there was one particular time where she was gone for 3 days, and we didn't have anything in the refrigerator except for stale bologna. For me, it tastes like beef jerky. So I was okay with it. It was fine for me, but I didn't know at the time. But as I became a teenager, that's when the resentment started kicking in. I started to feel angry, and I started fights, and I started causing, well, actually, I didn't cause any fights. I finished them. However, I don't know if I was fighting against people or what I was unhappy with internally. All I know is I was fighting. And by the way, Sean, sorry for that broken arm. My dad, he was my hero. My dad, he was my everything, my constant. My dad was always there, my number one fan. My dad was the only thing that I had in my life that was consistent. He was there at every single thing that I ever did. I was one of them children that was involved in everything. I was in the band, in the orchestra, I was in leadership, I was in drama, I was in everything. And everything that I was in, my father was always there on the front row. I remember playing in the orchestra, sitting there playing the orchestra, and afterwards my dad would tell me that how good I sounded. See, he didn't hear nobody but me. That's how proud he was of me. My dad told me when I was 6 years old that I was going to be the president of the United States. And I believed him. So my dad, he was everything to me. And I can recall being a senior in high school, having my final concert of the year, and it was the culmination of everything. It was the culmination of everything that I had ever done in life. I played in the band and the orchestra. I played the cello and the bass and the upright bass and the percussions. I played everything. And so while I'm playing, I'm looking out in the audience and I don't see my dad. I'm like, where's my dad? And so I'm getting a little nervous. I'm getting a little concerned because my dad is always there. He's always sitting on the front row. And he wasn't there that night. And then I remember going to play in another band and I'm looking out the back door and I don't see my dad coming in. I'm like, I know he's going to come in at some point. This was the biggest concert and the last concert of my whole school life. And I looked out in the audience and my father was not there. And so I later found out when I came home that my father had met a woman a couple of weeks before, maybe a few months before, and he was with her. And she became his priority. And a couple of months later, he got married. So after a few months of knowing this woman, he got married to her. And a few months after that, I remember hearing those words he told me. He told me to leave and never come back. He kicked me out on the streets. The most devastating time in my life. My father, my hero. The person that told me I was going to be the president of the United States. The one person that I had constantly in my life. My father kicked me out on the streets. I slept in cars. I slept on couches. I slept in my 3-year-old cousin's race car bed. My father, the hero in my life, abandoned me. This new woman had replaced me as the love of his life. And you know, when you love somebody so much and the person that you respect the most in life, when you lose their love and when they abandon you, you just feel so lost. Sometimes you got to go get it, whether they want you to have it or not. I can recall being in my early 20s working at HP. You know, HP is a Fortune 100 company in the Silicon Valley. And I worked in a very high-level position, a very high-level department. We worked with the CEO. And I can recall the level of condescension that I received from a lot of the males that worked there. They didn't feel like I was worth being there. But I knew I was worth being there because you know what? When I was 6 years old, my aunt told me, she said, you know what? You are as equally as important as anybody else, even the President of the United States. And I remember being 6 and thinking, even the President of the United States? And she said, even the President of the United States. And for me, that was mind-blowing. Because I was taught, you know, for a little black girl whose gender and whose race were supposed to be inferior, I was as equally as important as the most important person in the world. So I went through life thinking that I was equally as important. I went through life, I didn't have any inferiority complex. So when those men looked at me and they talked to me with this level of condescension, you know what it did for me? It motivated me to operate in excellence. I already knew that I was great. I knew that I was equal. I knew that I could do just as well as them. And in my mind, I was thinking, just wait, just watch me. And you know what? It's okay, because even when nobody else believes in you, you got to be willing to believe in yourself. Because belief is not something that you borrow, but it's something that you own the moment you're willing to claim it. So make sure you claim that thing. I remember it like yesterday when I first got my real estate license. I was so excited. I remember emailing everybody in my contacts list, letting them know that I have my real estate license. Say, hey, if you need to buy or sell a home, call me. I will take care of you. I remember investing everything I had in my real estate business, whether I had the money or not. I was robbing Peter to invest in my real estate business. I was taking training and I didn't have the money to take training. I was advertising, and I was just spending so much money in my business because I realized that in order to be successful in business, you got to invest in your business. So that's what we were willing to do. That's what my husband and I was willing to do. And so out of my investing in my business, I picked up some clients that were moving into the area. And hey, look, I was excited about being their agent. I was excited about working with them, and I was excited that they chose me because you know what? The reality is, you can choose anybody you want to represent you. So I was happy that they were willing to work with me. Even though I had raggedy cars, even though my clothes were not the best, I drove a Ford Windstar, y'all. A white Ford Windstar. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But you know what? I wasn't ashamed because I was so hungry and I was so inspired. I was so hungry for success that it didn't even matter. So you know what I did? They came down to where we were. I threw them in my car because they had driven an hour and a half to get there. So I said, hey, I'm going to throw you in my car. But my car was raggedy. It was okay. I remember driving down the street and my door would fly open for no reason at all. And the husband, he was sitting there and I'm turning the corner and he was holding the door closed. That was so embarrassing. But more than I was embarrassed, because I was definitely embarrassed, more than I was embarrassed, I was hungry. And so what I did is I over-delivered with my service. Yes, there was lack. I didn't have the best car. I didn't have the best clothes. But I did have the best service. I did look out for my client's best interest. And that's what I was able to give them. So beyond me having a Mercedes-Benz like all of those other real estate agents have, but treat you like another number or another transaction, I treated them like they were my only clients. Really they were, but still I treated them like they were my only clients. And that's how I do my business anyway, is I treat you like you're my only client. But don't ever let what you don't have be an obstacle for where you need to get. With success sometimes comes embarrassment. You got to be willing to be the fool sometimes. You got to be willing to go through embarrassment. You got to be willing to overcome those obstacles in order to reach your destiny. That's okay. I'm willing to be the fool. I'm willing to fail. I'm willing to take risks. I'm willing to also put all my cards on the table and do everything I can to provide a valuable service to my clients. Because understand this, your lack has nothing to do with your destiny. With all the obstacles that I've had to face in my life, I realized that they were just moments that helped me take me to my destiny. And what you have to realize, that at this very time, at this very moment, the obstacles that you are facing in your life right now, that they are moments to get you to your destiny. If you want to operate at a high level, you got to be able to go through the low level so that it can take you to the next level. This is why we wrote this book, for your destiny, for your future, for your legacy. 3 things you have to remember if you want to be successful. You must overcome obstacles and never give up if you want to have your best year ever. This book that we wrote is the ultimate blueprint for success. It's what we live by, and it's what's got us to where we are today. Do you want to be successful? Get the book. Do you want to win? Read the book. And do you want to achieve? You need to live that book. I challenge you. I challenge you to be one. One with your dream, one with your aspirations, and one with your destiny.
All my life, I have been a mover and a shaker. I have lived in New York, Bronx, Manhattan, Staten Island. I have lived in Lincoln, Nebraska. I have lived in Atlanta, Georgia, California, back to New York. I would like to say I was a world-class traveler, but I was not. Growing up as a small child, we were often evicted from our household. We grew up poor, and it was not easy. And as a kid, you don't know a lot about eviction. But you know that when you come home, I know this for sure, 736 Riverside Drive in Manhattan, coming home and finding my stuff on the sidewalk, our family, our boxes, the things that we owned that were precious to us, and having my friends, who I thought were my friends, rummaging through the boxes and going through our stuff, and my friend Brenda, who I thought was my friend, saying, "You got evicted." I mean, that hurt. And looking up to your parents and thinking that they're supposed to take care of you, and here we are in this situation, and I'm getting teased by the kids. We always had hand-me-down clothes, always being teased once again by the kids. You know, as a kid, my time, you wanted to have pro Keds, and my father got me pro Skips, and again, getting teased. Everybody in the neighborhood knew us. My father often would gamble, and we wouldn't have food. My mother would go to the neighborhood store. I remember Maxie, he owned the store on 152nd Street in Broadway, and he would give my mother cans of food because we were hungry, and he felt bad for my mother and wanted her children to eat. And I remember my father beating up my mother because she let them know our business, that we were lacking, we were without. It wasn't a good feeling. A time finally emerged in which we moved once again, but we were moving from everything bad and everything negative. Once again, I'm off to being a mover and a shaker. All love stories don't have a happy ending. My mother and father loved each other very much. They were high school sweethearts. He loved her, she loved him, but it wasn't a good relationship. While he loved us, my sister and I, as children, he wasn't a good father. You know, love is really complicated, especially when it comes to abuse. It gets to a point where the abuse that we were receiving, both my mother and myself, we found ourselves making excuses for my father. You know, I wanted my father to do good. I was championing for him. It's really hard to champion for the person you love who's also hurting you, who's hurting your mother. There was a time I remember my father beating my mother because of the fact that she hadn't warmed his food properly. I remember him giving her a black eye because she had told the people at the corner store we didn't have any food or any money, and they gave her a couple of cans of food. I remember wearing the big round sunglasses so that no one would know that she had a black eye. I just wanted us to be normal. He said he was sorry. We should just forgive him. Even for me as a kid, playing hide and seek with my father, looking up to him, hiding behind the door one time, not coming out, feeling empowered because he's calling me to come out, but he can't find me, so I'm winning. I didn't come out until I heard him say, "Tanasha, come out." You know, you have your parent call out to you, and you know when they're serious, so you do what you're supposed to do. And I come out, and he takes a light bulb from the lamp, and he takes that hot light bulb, and he burns my left hand. I remember my skin melting. I remember crying out that my mother ran into the room to see what had happened to me. I remember picking at the scab weeks after, but I forgave him. I just wanted everything to be right, but it wasn't. Sometimes love hurts. So, moving on up, but it wasn't a deluxe apartment in the sky. My mother had finally worked up the courage to move on. We moved into a small apartment. It had a 1-bedroom. It had a small living room, and it had a little kitchenette. I remember the kitchen being so small because 2 of us could not be in there at the same time. There were times in which the building had no heat. We would turn the oven on and open the oven door, and literally that oven door would touch the wall if you opened it. My sister and I, we shared a twin bed on one side of the room, and my mother slept in another twin bed on the other side of the room. These were probably some of the best times that we had right after my mother had gained the courage to move on. I remember sleeping at one foot of the bed and my sister at the other end of the bed, and her feet in my face, my feet in her face. We were close. We fought because we were fighting for room. Get your stinky feet out my face. But we had good times, sharing stories, listening to my mother. She was working 2 jobs. She would sell encyclopedias. I remember on rainy days, we would use the encyclopedias on how to make a telephone with the oatmeal and how to make a plane out of paper. We kept busy. It was a good time. It was tough. I remember there was a time in which my father had come by, and he was banging on the door. And before my mother had gone off to work, she had given strict instructions. I don't know if it was during the summertime. And she said, if your father comes by, do not open this door. Don't worry. You're not going to get in trouble. And I'm thinking, wow, this is the one time that I don't have to listen to him. So I wasn't expecting him to come by, but he came by. And the banging on that door, like immediate fear set in. And I told him, Mommy said not to open the door for you. And I remember thinking to myself, if I open this door, what is he going to do to us? Is he going to take us? Is he going to come in here and hide and wait for my mother to come back and hurt her? What is it that he's going to do? I remember my mother was struggling. You know, selling encyclopedias was not an easy thing, going door to door. We were still very poor. Whether we were filling up on sugar and water, or we actually enjoyed the syrup sandwiches. I can't stand a syrup sandwich today. But, you know, back then that filled us. I was so stressed out. My mother had to make that decision to move on up. She really did. I had started losing my hair. I was in counseling because I began to become withdrawn. You know, you begin to figure out if you just become silent, be a little bit invisible, I won't draw any attention to myself, so maybe nothing will happen to me. My mother had to make the decision and gain the courage to leave, to move on. I had to gain the courage and remove the fear and not open that door. Why did I raise my hand? I remember attending a real estate conference. It was a boot camp for new real estate agents. A room, 200 people. I stand up, I raise my hand, and I ask the question, what does it take to be a successful real estate agent as a part-timer? The first panelist, you have a panelist of experts in the area, and the first gentleman says, oh, you'll never be successful in this business. No way. I don't hire part-timers. I don't think you're going to be able to do it. The second panelist, female, she states the same thing. Oh, no, yeah, I agree with him. I don't hire part-time agents. There's no way you can be successful in this business. The next lady, I feel like she felt a little bad for me. And she says, well, you know, there are a few things you need to do. You need to manage your schedule. You need to do X, Y, and Z in order to be successful. I was embarrassed. I felt this small. I left there in March of 2002. And in May, I did my first open house on Mother's Day. I have 4 small boys. And, you know, people were saying, why would you do an open house on Mother's Day? Well, why not? I'm thinking the most serious buyer is going to be out shopping. I'm out. I do my open house. I get a client. I sell my property. As of today, I've sold him 6 properties in total. But that's not the end of the story. I then go on to be a top listing agent. I received awards that year for Rookie of the Year, top buyer's agent. I mean, I was crushing it. But you know what? That following year, I'm in a transaction with a gentleman who happens to work at the office of the first panelist who told me I would not be successful. I asked if it was okay if I speak with the broker, and I go in and I introduce myself and I say, hi, I'm Tanasha Brown. I met you at the boot camp class last year and I just wanted to come by and let you know. You told me I would never be successful in this business. And I just wanted to thank you because actually I'm pretty successful. And he was like, so why are you here? And I was like, well, I just want you to know that I almost gave up. You know, I went on to be successful. I've been Rookie of the Year. I've received several. He was like, oh, okay, great, good for you. Too many times we give up because someone else does not believe. Here's what I've learned. Someone else's belief is not a prerequisite for us living our dream. You are going to have others that tell you that you cannot do it. Guaranteed. You're going to have others that don't think that you can do it. Guaranteed. You're also going to have some haters. Guaranteed. But again, here's what I've learned. Someone else's belief is not a prerequisite for you living your dream. So go get busy living your dream. Life is not a fairy tale. It's more like a reality show. I can tell you about all the times I wanted to give up. I can tell you about all the times that people told me to quit. I can actually fill an encyclopedia about how hard it was. But inside all of us lives a champion. If there's one thing that I want you to remember in this world, you have got to never, ever give up. Never give up. Never give up on your dreams. Never give up on your vision. Never give up on love. Yeah, I'm living my dreams. I need you to live yours. I do this for my family. Why do you do it? In the face of insurmountable odds, you have to remember the key to never giving up is remembering the fight. Why do you fight? Life is full of reasons to quit and reasons to live. But you have to choose right now. You have to choose to live. Choose your life. The primary reason we wrote this book is so that you never give up on your destiny. You never give up on your legacy. You never give up on your future. 3 things we must remember to be successful. We must overcome our obstacles, never give up in order to have our best year ever. This book is the ultimate blueprint for success. Do you want to be successful? You're going to have to get the book. Do you want to win? You're going to have to read the book. Do you want to achieve? You're going to have to live the book. I challenge you to be one with your dreams, one with your aspirations, and one with your destiny.